building Trump's border wall. Steve Garvey stands for Trump.
I voted for him twice. Both times he was the best person for the job.
When they tell us who they are, we need to listen. Steve Garvey is too conservative for California. Standing Strong PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Clippers basketball lives on KTLA 5.
Good morning, I'm Eric Spillman. The U.S. Supreme Court rules that Donald Trump will stay on the Colorado primary ballot. We'll have reaction to that coming up.
Good morning, I'm Lena Bovin. We are live here in Alhambra. Coming up next, CVS stores across the country will soon be carrying the first ever over-the-counter birth control pill. What it is, how much it is, all the details coming up next.
Good morning, I'm Sam Rubin, brand new here at 10 o'clock. The way to get through a really nasty divorce? Maybe cast your son in the same movie you're making. We'll talk about Kevin Costner's formula. Plus, Paige and Mitch from HGTV, they fixed their flip, and now they're rocking the block. The twosome will join us live.
All right, not that much happening in the weather for today, and that is a good news. That's good. Well, that's what I'm saying. That is a good news.
Okay.
We do have some clouds, some sunshine, but no rain until Wednesday, and then Wednesday heading into late Wednesday into Thursday morning, we could get some of those showers moving into Los Angeles. 62 coastal, downtown Los Angeles 65, San Fernando Valley up to 66 degrees, also Orange County at 66, 63 Inland Empire in the high desert 58. We're running a little on the cool side, but we're going to warm up for next weekend. And Frank, back to you.
Some breaking news this morning. Former President Donald Trump reacting to the ruling this morning by the U.S. Supreme Court. The justices ruled he cannot be kicked off the Republican primary ballot in Colorado. KTLA's Eric Spillman in the newsroom with more for us. Eric, good morning.
Morning, Frank. On his social media site this morning, Donald Trump called the Supreme Court decision a big win for America. He just spoke from his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida. He said judges should not have the power to disqualify a presidential candidate.
The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that very well, and I really do believe that will be a unifying factor.
The Supreme Court sided with Trump by a vote of 9-0. Trump's name will stay on the Colorado primary ballot and on ballots in Illinois and Maine as well. Back in December, the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that Trump was ineligible based on the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which bars anyone engaging in insurrection from holding office. This morning, the U.S. Supreme Court reversed that ruling. The justices did not weigh in on whether Trump took part in an insurrection, but a majority did say that the Constitution does not allow a single state to disqualify a presidential candidate and that only Congress would have the power to do that.
The court was able to get to a unanimous opinion because, as we heard during oral arguments, this is a court that doesn't want each state making a different decision when it comes to a federal election. They don't want Colorado saying that the former president is ineligible. Arkansas says that he is. They don't want a patchwork without federal guidance.
Tomorrow is Super Tuesday. That means 16 states, including California, are holding primaries. A lot of delegates are at stake, but we're not likely to see any nail biters when the results come in tomorrow night. Former President Trump is expected to make a clean sweep of the Republican primaries tomorrow. He needs 1,215 delegates to lock up the nomination, and he's well on his way. If he wins California by 50% or more, he will take all of California's 169 Republican delegates. At rallies over the weekend, he focused his fire on President Biden, although at a rally in Virginia, he appeared to confuse Biden's name with former President Obama's. Over the weekend, Nikki Haley won her first primary, the one in the District of Columbia. She beat Trump there by a margin of 62% to 33%. She becomes the first woman ever to win a GOP primary in U.S. history. She's promised to stay in the race until at least tomorrow. Yesterday on Meet the Press, she refused to say if she would endorse Trump if she bows out.
Do you think Donald Trump would follow the Constitution if he were elected to a second term? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you always want to think someone will, but I don't know. You know, when
when you go in and you talk about revenge, when you go in and you talk about, vindication, when you go in and you talk about what does that mean?
For President Biden, there were some discouraging poll numbers over the weekend. A New York Times Siena College survey of registered voters has Biden losing to Trump by 5 percentage points. That same poll found that voters are deeply concerned about Biden's age. Here are the numbers on that question. 47% of those surveyed strongly agree that Biden is too old to be an effective president, compared to 21% who strongly agree that Trump is too old to be an effective president. New this morning, Biden, in an interview with The New Yorker, says he does not think Trump will concede if Trump loses the election in November. Biden says, quote, "If and when I win, I think he'll contest it no matter what the result is," unquote. Jessica?
Eric, thank you. New this morning, the first over-the-counter birth control pill has shipped to U.S. retailers, and it will be available later this month.